This video is brought to you by Mubi, a curated streaming service showing exceptional films from around the globe. Get a whole month free at mubi.com/Spikimamovies. There's this one sequence from a 90s Japanese animation that to this day makes my blood curdle just thinking about it. The name of this animation is Perfect Blue, a masterpiece psychological thriller from the one and only late Satoshi Kon. And the scene in question happens exactly halfway into the film. Here's how it goes. We see a car entering an apartment complex late at night. Inside this car is a man named Shibuya Takao, a screenwriter for an ongoing thriller series, Double Bind. This series has been gaining traction due to its recent onset incident that left the producer seriously injured from a letter bomb sent toward a newly casted ex-pop idol Mima. Despite this history and the intimidating sight before him, Takao nonchalantly rips away the paper, thinking it's just a silly joke. But right then, something catches his attention. A distant sound of music. The shot gently pans across the empty parking lot, clarifying its vacancy while perverting the upbeat music into a menace. Attempting to shake off the fear, Takao yells at the unknown. No answer except his own echo. Even the faint music disappears for a brief second, amping the horror of surveillance that someone is hiding in the shadows, watching his every move. The startling prospect prompts Takao to anxiously press the elevator button, at which point, the music resumes, now in the form of a clear threat. Takao panics and looks back in horror, and before anyone can process who or what, the scariest part about this reveal isn't the lack of elaboration or the unexpected brutality. It's the music, which is still playing from a distance. From the beginning, the music is barely audible. It only lurks in the background, masking its origin and obscuring its intentions. The overly bright progression of the song heightens the unease when contrasted against the dark and monotonic setting, and the clash between the rapid and almost violent drum beat and the comparably stagnant energy of the parking lot adds a sense of restlessness. Naturally, the timely disappearance of the music only emphasizes its presence to the audience and makes the neutral panning shot seem hostile, as if reflecting the perspective of the culprit. While the majority of the sequence is static or minimal in movement, there is one instance before the big revelation where the camera makes a dramatic pan to capture Takao head-on. Being the first use of a dynamic three-dimensional movement, this shot instinctively communicates significance and portends a vigorous conclusion to the audience. After all, placing a character away from an entrance and toward the camera generally signals a setup, in this case of the killer's appearance from the elevator. So when the film doesn't reveal the killer, the audience and Takao as well are paralyzed, baffled by the unexpected turn of events. But there's something even stranger about this climax. The pinnacle of this scene is timed to be the shot of the radio, not the audio that plays seconds before. Even at face value, this makes a little sense. Why would it be the visual follow-up that scares when there was already an auditory cue with the opening of the elevator door? How did the film time its punchline to the image instead of the sound? This goes back to the mentioned use of misdirection. Every cut, every movement, and every beat you see in this sequence is there to form a certain expectation, precisely that the killer will show up. So when the film turns the whole setup on its head, you're prevented from fathoming the situation with confidence. Despite hearing what Takao sees, the preconceived belief, sudden increase in volume, its distorted quality, and the abrupt visual transition temporarily freeze you and keep you wondering. The revelation of the radio as a result becomes the most horrifying shot of this entire sequence. It is loud, imposing, and static. In fact, it's the longest static shot of the sequence, counting exactly 168 frames. For a full 7 seconds, the audience is stuck, blocked from turning around and looking for the missing source of true terror, the person who placed the radio in the elevator. This image, while being a revelatory shot, is simultaneously a source of yet another fear and a problem to be solved. The very last shot of the sequence solidifies the fear of ambiguity by omitting the depiction of the killing altogether, keeping the killer from being humanized. With a faint sound of quick steps, presumably of the perpetrator, the very last thing you hear is the same song that has been playing, a prolongation of anxiety, a daunting message that the killings will probably go on. But the sequence itself is only half the story. Every scene prior to this incident is carefully built, chosen, and interconnected to lead the audience to this very moment. In other words, more than the what of the scenes, it is the how of the lead-up that holds the key to understanding this sequence and the film as a whole. Perfect Blue, in essence, is a film about illusions. Illusion of the self, the others, dreams, and reality. And one prominent way Satoshi Kon alludes to this idea is with his signature scene-to-scene transitions. The film opens up with 3 Powertrons fighting King Burg, which, by the way, means King Bug, a fitting enemy for 3 masked heroes that represent the many personas of our protagonist fighting a bug that enters her humanity. The symbolic opening turns out to be a live performance, hinting at the film's deceptive nature. And after this is a series of impressive and mind-bending transitions that set the tone for the rest of the film. A scene that begins on a train seamlessly cuts to a shot of the stage, before going back to the shot of Mima grocery shopping. This shot then jumps back to the stage, then to a shot of Mima on bed, which turns out to be a TV screen, and one last time to the stage before finally revealing the opening credits with a regular fade-out. The creative transitions only escalate for the rest of the first act, featuring smash cuts, movement and audio match cuts, wipes, and even rewinds that jump between past and present, reality and dreams. The confusing editing style is a suitable choice that both effectively communicates the backstory of our leading character, Mima, and her slowly degrading mental state as she copes with her new career path. With over 20 unique transitions within the span of 40 minutes, the film drags the audience into Mima's world, forcing them to share the doubt, the trauma, and the debilitating sense of isolation. And it's when the exhausting emotional journey reaches its peak that the film strikes the audience with this haunting sequence. With our and Mima's unreliable perception of the world, the killing only increases the already draining aura of self-doubt and pressures the question of what if? What if we are the killers? This is precisely why the transitions carry on after the horrific murder like nothing happened. The sound of a siren, accompanied by a close-up of the ambulance light, teases the viewers of a closure, an explanation that will remedy the panic. But again, what awaits is just another deceitful conclusion, with an even more mischievous detail. Cham is doing fine without Mima. Happily, a duo. If you search online for an analysis of Perfect Blue, you will most likely come across a video or an article discussing the significance of the color red. Indeed, there are over 15 instances in the first act alone where the color red is used as a symbolic representation of Mima's splitting self-identity, her descent into madness. Having most of them accentuated in scenes closely linked to Mima herself, the red slowly engulfs her psyche and hints to the audience of her gradual deterioration. It begins with a simple talk, an interruption, affiliation, and finally, identification. Over time, the red becomes more noticeable and meaningful, associating itself with dread and trepidation, until its mere presence triggers fear in the minds of the viewers. The height of this buildup is the mysterious scene of the first murder, where its culminating shot envelopes the screen with the most vivid tint of red featured thus far. Beyond the primal fear of the unknown, it portrays the terror of degenerating self-concept. It is an embodiment of insanity, that what remains of Mima is but a ghost of her former self. She is no more, and by the end of it, neither is Takao. But what about the others? How many lives are taken by the end? It's easy to miss, but like the colors and the transitions, the killings too progressively become more explicit. At first, it's only an inkling, a passing shot of a newspaper article. Then it's a sound, the motivation behind the killer. By the time you see the photographer sitting alone in his living room, you know something horrible is about to happen. But not to this extent. While there are still hints of the reds, the static shots, and the uncomfortable pauses that drag on for a frame too long, the scene is otherwise the complete opposite of the first murder. With excessive violence and loud techno beats, the scene plays out more like a conventional horror slasher than a psychological thriller. And that's why it works, because Perfect Blue was never about the violence, up until this point, nearly an hour into its 81-minute runtime. And this number is no coincidence. The reason why this scene takes place 2/3 of the way into the film is because it is supposed to mark the start of the film's denouement, where everything that was once hidden unveils itself. And it begins with an unhinged display of a crime. The same act of brutality that was hidden from the viewers at the film's turning point. And guess when that scene took place? At 40 minutes and 55 seconds. Exactly halfway into the film. The beauty and terror of Perfect Blue come from its ability to balance contradicting qualities. Like the clash between reality and fantasy, it presents a realistic perspective of an animated world. While the images on screen are clearly fictional, their cinematic portrayal, from the shot compositions, the editing, all the way to the lighting and color grading, is anything but fake. The expressive transitions and absurd movements therefore do not come across as a showcase of the limitless possibilities of an animation, but as an illustration of the crumbling mind of an individual. By the time Mima questions her reality, you are expected to be asking the same thing. And like how Mima is left unsure about the chronology and validity of select memories, you share that sentiment as well, unable to spell out the path you took along the way. Perfect Blue is a reflection, a mirror of your own state of mind. In this sense, Perfect Blue's intrinsic terror has little to do with the defiance of logic. It is about the deep-rooted awareness, the unconscious realization of the forgotten, the possible, and the repressed. Listen closely. The music is still playing. Hello everyone, thanks so much for watching. I love animated films just as much as I love live action films, and Perfect Blue is just one of many examples that demonstrates the endless creative possibilities of an animated film. If you're a film lover, I urge you to check out more animated works, as they are capable of opening your mind up to unexplored areas of creativity. And if you're unsure where to start, you can head over to Mubi, the sponsor for today's video, to check out some excellent works. Mubi is a curated streaming service dedicated to elevating great cinema from all around the globe. From iconic directors to emerging auteurs, there's always something new to discover. And since every film is handpicked, it's a great way to watch films you love and discover new films you haven't seen before. For instance, I reside in Canada, and Mubi currently has this incredible animated short by a Lebanese artist and filmmaker Elie Daguerre called Waves 98. This film was actually the winner of Palme d'Or in 2015, and it merges drawn images with still photography and real-life footage to create this surreal, hypnotic tone, while also making full use of the animation techniques to tell its story. It's a beautifully captivating film, and there are many more like this one that you can watch right now by heading over to my link at mubi.com/SpikimaMovies for a free 30-day trial. That's mubi.com/SpikimaMovies. So go check it out, and as always, thanks for watching.